Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the IITPSA Women in IT series, which is titled #MyStory. For those that don't know, IITPSA is the professional body for IT professionals in South Africa, and we run the Women in IT chapter. Now, the purpose of the Women in IT chapter is to, because of the underrepresentation of women in the IT sector, the Women in IT aims to address that gap, helping girls see opportunities for themselves in the IT space and enabling women IT professionals to progress in their careers. So please join us for the rest of our webinars that we've got lined up for the remainder of the year, and join us in sharing knowledge and support and progress women in IT. It gives me great pleasure today to welcome Julie Regairaz. And Julie, I hope I pronounced your surname properly. I'm so sorry. I hate it when I butcher people's names and surnames. It's such a privilege and an honor to have you on our first webinar event today entitled #MyStory. When I heard your story, Julie, we were connected by a mutual acquaintance, and when I heard your story, I just knew I wanted to share it with so many people out there, especially women. It is a fascinating story. I wanted to read out your bio because, again, your bio is fascinating, and I stopped myself and I thought, Julie, I don't want to steal your thunder. I don't want to read out your bio because you're going to tell us your story today. So before I hand over to Julie, I want to just again welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so pleased to see that we have men in this webinar as well, because this isn't just a webinar for women, it's a webinar for everybody, and it's an opportunity for us to see how we can help young girls and help women progress in ICT and introduce them to the sexy world of ICT. But without further ado, Julie, I look so forward to hearing your story once again, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Yolandi. Thank you. And you didn't spell my name you did spell my name properly, so it's really nice.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. I'm really also really privileged and honored that you decided to invite me. My name is Julie Regairaz, Bayasibana, and I'm really delighted to share with you my journey. And I hope you're gonna like it. So as you can hear a little bit, my accent is not from South Africa. I am actually, I think you all know Paris, and I'm coming from France, not directly from Paris, but yes. So I believe that even though I was born and raised in France and my story is not from South Africa, I'm pretty sure a lot of engineers or any women in ICT will relate to my journey, and I hope I can, pinpoint on some things that we all, men and women, share in our journey to engineering. So I decided to start my story a very long time ago, and because I realized when I had to think about my story that my journey started when I was really young. So I'm gonna call that first part the road to engineering. And I believe that I started my engineering path on the move. One thing that is very specific about my family is that we've been moving almost every other year. So I had, here you can see in red dots on the French map, all the dots, all the places that I lived. In every dot, I think I moved like 2 to 3 times. So from a really young age, I've been always, I had to adapt in making new friends, finding new ways to integrate really fast, and I actually quite enjoyed it. And I realize now that I'm over 30 years old, that this has been key for me as an engineer. I didn't know, but what I was building from a very young age through being, kind of pushed in moving, following my families and making new friends and learning new places, changing houses, I had to adapt, and this was one of my main skills. I wanted to start like my engineering journey by telling you about my dream. I don't know why, but I got really attracted since I was 6, from what I remember, towards space. I was always wondering how, because we didn't have all the information and technology, we only had books at that time. I was attracted to how come we can go and see the sun and look at the earth. And I want to see that. I really wanted that. And I was attracted to understand how the earth is functioning, how everything is functioning. So from 6 to 10, I remember even looking at how can I become an astronaut. And eventually around 10 years old, I realized that there were not too many women that were astronauts. I think there was only one at that time. And then they were really old when they were actually being able to fly. I think it was around 40 years old. So for me, it was way too old. I now know that 40 years old is not old, but for me, it was like, no, I was too impatient in waiting 30 years, study hard for only maybe getting on a ship. When I'm 40 is definitely not what I can afford. I'm really too eager to know I need it now. So today, when we look at the news, it's possible, and I cannot believe that anybody who is not an astronaut can go. But it's like, okay, maybe one day. So around 10 to 14, I was like, okay, maybe not an astronaut, but I can become a pilot. I really wanted to understand how the plane were flying. So I was really interested again in things that are flying. I noticed that maybe I'm attracted to how things are working and trying to see things from above. And again, I think I was really also attracted to sport and speed. I don't know why, and so I was like, yeah, let me become a pilot. So I got really obsessed in looking for how can I do that in France. I had to go to engineering school, and then I had to go to the army. And the sport teacher was really pushing me hard because I had the athletics at that time, not anymore. And he was like, yes, you can do it. So I had men and women, my teachers, they were like, yes, with your grades, if you continue like that with your passion and your willpower, you can do it. And guess what? I'm not a pilot. Why? The main reason is I have to wear glasses. When I grew really fast, my sight became a problem. And then I started being completely devastated. How can I become an adult so I can, actually become an adult and then still go through the contest? Anyway, I try to find a way, and none of them were working. So I kind of give up like my dream and career and focus more on the now. And at that time, around 13, 14 years old, you start making connections with friends, and my connections at that time were really around basketball. So I found kind of comfort in continuing sport, continuing being happy and enjoying the relationship that I was building with my team. And somehow got disconnected to what do I want to be. I was not obsessed anymore, but I was obsessed in continuing studying and being in a team. I enjoyed so much, spending my weekends, being a team. And actually, I didn't know that at that time, but this is the first hint I want to give you, is that whenever we are into sports or any activities that are not related to our own career, this is the right time to develop a lot of skills. I think that looking back, the skills that I've been developing through basketball, because I got to go to a certain good level. I played national teams and like national level. And anyway, so those skills were key for my engineering, able to collaborate, able to motivate the team. And I was not that leader that talk and speak and score the most point. No, I was the one who was running up and down without getting the ball. That was fine. I was going back on defense. I was making sure that my team would get their hopes high after a lost game. I would be the one cracking the joke. Anyway, I was, without knowing it, being the silent leader that I didn't know, but further on, one of my managers told me, Julie, this is your natural leadership. You're building it through the team. So again, I just want to pinpoint, and I'm going to move forward. I think that definitely looking back, sport teams and any activity that you do, even though they're in a team or individually, will help you if you're young, building all those skills that are required. And I think definitely going to help you succeed in your career of engineering. So that's now, fast forward, I'm around 17 years old, 18 years old. At that time here, it's matrix in South Africa, but in France, we have baccalaureate. And then you have to decide. I'm like, I'm clueless. Okay, engineering through plane may be an option, so let me try to do that. And then I went on what we call preparatory school before entering engineer school, thinking that, okay, I'm going to go and build planes. I'm going to be maybe the one in the tower, at the airport to control airline controls. And yeah, this is feasible. Why not? And then suddenly, right before selecting the school, I got into a class that was around telecommunication and networks. And it's not all about the teacher, it's about what we were discovering. I was learning so much, and I was so happy about learning about protocols and everything. I'm like, that's okay. There are telecommunication in airplanes, there are networks in airplanes. I can still be close to my dream. And then I decided to enter an engineering school. So after 2 years of preparation, you're selected. And I entered what we call NCET. This is my school, and it's in Toulouse, France. And for 3 years, you're learning engineering in telecommunication and network. I'm going to fast forward because that is a school. And but in this school, you have to do internship every year. My first one, guess what, was not about engineering. I actually got lucky to be selected to go to the NBA camps in 76ers. And I flew to US, and I actually practiced my English and basketball at the same time, got to meet my NBA players. I was so lucky. But the other two, of course, the other two internships had to be technical. And so I got hired by Motorola in the US, and I made my 2 internships in the US. And guess what? Second hint, my internship mentor was Dr. Tabisho Ndongwe, who is today heading the Enterprise Agile Transformation at Standard Bank Group in South Africa. And I can tell you already that she was not just my mentor throughout my career until then. We're still in contact and we're now associates, but let me not spoil the end. So my internship within Motorola, there was 2 internships, and then I graduated and I got an offer at Motorola US. So I was now definitely finally flying to the US. And I landed in Chicago, in the region of Chicago, Illinois. I love this picture because this is where I spent, after that graduation, around 5 to 6 years. So that was the way towards engineering. I was now giving away my country, and then I wanted to become, I was becoming now a software engineer. So becoming a software engineer, I had no clue what was a software engineer, but I landed in Motorola, Libertyville, like around Chicago area. And as you can see, it is called Innovation Park. What is innovation? At that time, I had no clue. I didn't know that I was innovating. I didn't know that engineering is actually a part of what big tech are doing, and big tech can innovate through engineering. So my job when I arrived and right after my internship was to work on 2G, 3G phone. mobile phones. So I'm doing what we call not just IT and software, I'm doing software, embedded software. So my first job was about actually creating a little spy, a logger that would be on phones to try to capture all the data that is required to identify when a call is dropped. So at that time, remember, our phones didn't have like very powerful processors. They were no smartphone, they were mobile phones. So I arrived around the 2G, 3G timeframe when 3G just went out, the network were just being built. And those two examples, the Pebble luxury version and then the Razr were key for Motorola, who was leader in the smartphone, in the mobile phone industry. And right at that time, that was when there was a turnaround the smartphone. The smartphone started popping up. And so I got, after 2 years, 1 year and a half, smartphones started to be on our roadmap. And my manager arrived and said, Julie, you're from telco and network. Do you know anything around Wi-Fi? And I said, I studied it in school and I would love, to be part of that job. So he had to create a team that would actually integrate Wi-Fi on smartphones. And Motorola was working with Google on their first Android phones, which was called the Motorola Droid, which is the first smartphone I worked on. So as I said, I kind of spoiled it. This is the Wi-Fi stack, not just the Wi-Fi stack. You can see that there is the Wi-Fi around here, but this is the Android stack. And this was pretty much my next 10 years, my expertise. I had to know how Android works and I had to know how Wi-Fi and all the connectivity had to be plugged in. So let me try to step back because it's a little bit technical, but this is pretty much to showcase that this is what I've been working on, the architecture. And when we look at it, it's like so different than IT. We believe that it is different, but when we look at what today we do in IT, we're trying to do what we call DevOps. We're trying to put functions in layers and making sure we have the right interface. And there you go. This is exactly what I was doing for the past 10 years. We do continuous integration on embedded software. So that's just a step back. So that again this was my life, Android phones, Android tablets. And I learned so much because I was like on one of the top notch at that time, the Wi-Fi connectivity, which now is becoming the key connectivity because it can be free and it has to be reliable. It has to be interconnected with any access point. So the complexity around Wi-Fi is not just make it work. The complexity was how can we make it work all the time with quality, with performance, and without draining the battery on the phone, because that is what embedded software is. So one highlight that I wanted to say is not to show off, is just that as the only technical person doing Wi-Fi in Motorola Libertyville, and with the pressure that you can imagine on, hey, this is our first Android phone, I was really exposed. When I say exposed, it's like I had like, I think the VP, I don't remember, I'm sorry for that, but I had to be called in the VP room and say, Julie, we have no more time. You guys need to work hand in hand with the Google guys. And they would only talk to you because they want to talk technical. Remember, at that time, Google Android was just starting, so there was not too many resources. There pretty much was 1-2 people taking care of Bluetooth and Wi-Fi alone. So I had to go and fly for a few weeks and months to Google, Mountain View, California. Remember, at that time, I was around 25, 26, so I was really not old and female, and I entered those desks, and the way of working was completely different, but I learned so much with hand in hand those engineers that I became very quickly what we call a technical leader. Of course, it was only me, few testers located in France and India, and people in US, but that was not a big team. So I got lucky to learn so much hand in hand with Google, and ever since, for the past 10 years, working with them. One thing that I wanted to highlight in my software engineering is that I've been always drawn towards, connecting with the community. I told you that I had always to take the time to connect with people, make new friends, integrate myself. And as soon as I landed in Chicago, I saw that there was this first robotic competition that Motorola was supporting in sponsoring a team of a nearby school. And I was like, yeah, let me try to pitch in. And then I learned robotics because that was not my specialty, but through mentorship, I was now being a mentor of teenagers and high schoolers. And for a few years, participated in what we call the first robotic competition, and I loved it. I was like, this is such a fun project. You have like a riddle, and you have to find the best design in a short time. I really enjoyed it. This is also what I call engineering, but in a different domain. And I really, really enjoyed also being with younger people, being able to showcase that it's not just for boys. And I didn't know at that time, by me being a female, one of the only female that can mentor, I had an impact on their life. So moving faster towards my career, through my career, I was now, the Wi-Fi engineer, the go-to person everybody would go and talk to. A lot of people would come to me. It was difficult, so we had to grow a team. And then became the time of a personal choice. It's like, what do we do? Can we go back to Europe? And then I wanted to be, I didn't know, but I was starting building what I call a leadership. And pretty much, I never had thought I would be a leader. I never saw myself being a leader, because for me, leader was equal to manager. And I guess I didn't think I was ready for it, or I was even capable of it. So as I said, that leadership journey, I think it started there, but it was actually on my contract. I took a job at Intel in the French Riviera area that I didn't know. It's quite beautiful. The sun is there. It's similar to California weather, and actually similar to the weather we have right now in South Africa. So I'm actually really happy to be here. So I arrived here with my family, and then we joined Intel, and my job was to lead Wi-Fi team, but not just to lead it, because we had Intel, as you know, is a chipset company. They were not at that time on the smartphone and mobile industry, but they saw the opportunity to build software for demonstrating their hardware capability and showing that their performance can be also applied to an architecture that can go on smartphones. So I arrived at the time of that change in strategy and trying to demonstrate that. So we had actually to build a team. I had to recruit people who were 10 years to 20 years older than me, but still lead them, because I had to help them being best-in-class Wi-Fi integration team for our platform. So I'm fasting forward this because it took few months and years to do that, and to actually create a center of excellence in for Intel. And I can tell you, we don't need a lot of people to make great software. We just need the right people and the right team organization. And guess what? Basketball here really helped me in becoming the leader that my team needed from me, not just only technically, but actually in terms of all the soft skills
Hello, I think we may have lost Julie. I'm not sure if it's just on my side. Julie, are you there?
Okay, yeah, since when did you lose me? I'm really sorry. I think my Wi-Fi went down.
No problem, no problem. I also wasn't sure if it was on my side.
Okay.
So I think from the basketball story, from
Okay.
how basketball influenced your work at Intel as well.
Okay, so sorry about this. So let me just try to come back to it. So yeah, basketball helped me really leading this team, and I used the principle of being this invisible leader or soft leader or the one in the background to be what we call the servant leader. So fast forwarding, of course, I'm curious, and I had a discussion with my management. It's like I want to know more. I just don't want to be bound to Wi-Fi because I also need to learn, and I was driven by learning. And at the same time, connectivity on phone grow really big. It was like Wi-Fi was becoming almost the main connectivity, because in a lot of countries, Wi-Fi network were developed at home. People would not pay for their bandwidth when they were using Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi was really, really critical. And my team was really exposed to doing best-in-class software, delivering best-in-class software with Google Teams. Then I was like, there's a lot of other use cases on Bluetooth. We can see that now it's integrated in almost every car, every headset. People are using less and less wired technology. And so Bluetooth and Wi-Fi are really connected on the same chips. So I got to work on a lot of use cases around Bluetooth. Of course, location is also linked. You can notice there's a lot of link between your Wi-Fi and locations. And then here we can also see use cases growing in connectivity around NFC, near field communication, which is what you can use to tap and pay with your credit card. It's also integrated in most of your phones. So I had this need to learn new technology and through a connectivity team, and I grew as technical lead in all those technology and actually with the leaders of each technology. So that now I had a vision at the system level, and one of the highlights in my career is not again to show off, but it was like that's when I discovered that Wi-Fi was important, all the connectivity was important, and our CEO was presenting at the CES in Las Vegas 1 year, and then my boss called me like 3-4 days before I took the plane, and he's like, Julie, we need you on site because there is some problem with the demo. I had no clue what the demo was. Of course, this is secret. You need to fly tomorrow. It was Christmas time. So I left my family and then flew back to US in order to debug as being the man or the women to actually solve the issues so that the keynote is actually functional, and then CES exposure is really big. Like all those keynotes have to work perfectly. So I joined there, and then I spent 2 weeks literally to try to, I solved the issues, of course, because when you understand the problems, then I was able to solve this. And then I could see on people's face like the wow, like, and I wondered, asked them, what is wow? This is my job, it's easy for me. And they were like, Julie, you're young. We don't know any women like you. You're not coming from US. So there was this thinking, this is special. And I was like, no, this is not special. This is my job. And so that mirror that I got from people thinking what you're doing is actually great, I finally understood that, yes, I'm doing something, I'm good at it, I'm confident now, and people trust that I can make it happen. If I can even debug that CEO demo, is that, yes, I'm not that bad. And this is only at that time that I realized that I was technically good. And guess what? I was already 10 years in my career, almost. And if there was one thing that I want to say is like, don't wait for those opportunities to come to realize that, you're actually good at what you're doing when you're doing your job. So again, fast forward, because you know, the rhythm of a product goes really quick in this industry. And I got the opportunity after those jobs to join a team that is doing new devices. And so we were doing Google Glasses and smartwatches and Android Wear smartwatches. So I got asked to join the team as a product manager. So now I was a manager, I was a product manager, and I was doing software. So it's like, wow, am I capable of doing this? And here you can see, I'm sorry, I'm not doing advertisement, but those are the two products that I actually led. And when you lead a product as a software, you're pretty much the head, and you have to decide, you have to lead a team that is not only around your desk. They are in China, they're in India, they're everywhere, and then the production and the manufacturing is in Malaysia. So all the teams are in US. Your client is Google, your client is Tagayer, a luxury brand, your client is Strava and New Balance, and you have to deal with all of them and make sure that your team is delivering within 6 to 9 months, because the products start from 2 spreadsheets. And then 9 months later, it's live. Like your product is on people's wrists. Your product is on referees' wrists, which was the case of one of our watch in the England league. So you know, it was a lot of pressure, and eventually I made it. Like, I didn't realize that I enjoyed it. And we were capable as a team to make it happen. And when I talk about leadership, it's like, it's about doing things. It's about not thinking about the role that you're taking, but it's more about, are you enjoying? Are you making the right decision? Is your team actually following you? And if they're not, you know, am I able to talk to them so that we together can build the best product? So a lot of technical things here, and eventually, yes, I realized that I love technology, I love being in a product. And around that time, I was like, why am I the only one? Because, okay, those were 2 watches for men, but we were also, you know, building watches for women. And it's like, we need more women like me, because my colleagues were like, Julie, we need more people like you. And when they meant that, they meant we need more women. And I was asking them, why do you say so? Because they say, we are all the same. We think the same way. You think differently. And I said, do you think it's because I'm a woman? And they say, yes. So I got, you know, that was one of the hints, is that, yes, we need more women to build product that makes sense. And by addressing that diversity, you know, we would actually make a difference in the corporate, and not just to make a number and say we're even, just to say we're even. It's just because we can build better product when we're different. By having teams all around the world, we were making a difference because we were different. We were not always agreeing on things. We were not doing things the same way, but eventually that's what makes us better. Now, if we had more women, I understood now that yes, we would have even more performance. So I started questioning myself, how can I help, not just getting more women, but how can I help making an impact and role modeling? And this is my path toward entrepreneurship. Around Intel time, I got lucky to be selected in what we call, IITPSA. There was a program across Intel that would select people and create teams that have never been, they don't know each other. So we didn't know each other, and we were 5 women with one of the Intel VP. And we were selected to come to South Africa and had a project around 6 months, 3 months of preparation. We had a target, we had budget, and we had to do everything by ourselves on top of our work and be deployed. And we were deployed in South Africa. And so our team was deployed to trying to build software that actually would help women in South Africa, Nigeria, and Kenya, because there were 3 countries targeted, to empower them through technology. It's not to give them access, but it was a software that will actually help them understanding their need and trying to give them the skills for example, to connect to a forum, to engage a discussion, to create a profile online, to safely access some content. Anyway, long story short, that was my first time landing in South Africa. And guess what? I met Thabiso again. And we were reconnecting because we were in touch, but we were connecting around, yes, we need to connect women and girls. We need to empower them, but how can we do that? Like, I'm not from South Africa. I don't know what women want. So that initiative helped me understand more that actually the need of a woman in South Africa are quite similar to the need of a woman who doesn't know technology in Europe or in US. It is wrong to think that every woman in Europe know about technology. I knew because I was in this domain as a job, but the rest of my friends are not. So I started connecting with South Africa and trying to be purposeful. So this is, again, a link on the article that was written at the time. If you need more, I will share it with pleasure and talk about this. But that was my first connection to South Africa and thinking, okay, what can I help to help closing the gap? What can I do? And it kind of was in me since then. So I decided when I went back and with the push of my VP to actually create hackathons with a whole bunch of women. And this is one of the hackathons that we did. So that's one of the action with the WIIT. We call it Women Hackers Action Tank. And we created hackathons for many years and workshop for kids and women to try to engage in technology. I spent pretty much, because I have a son, almost like 7 years doing STEM with the class, with the school that I had, like volunteering work. And eventually you're gonna see how it leads to STEM Curious. So now the last part of my work is that after that product oriented, I got hired by a big construction group. I had no clue what IT was, what transformation was, because I was already on the top-notch technology and teams, and we were using Scrum and Agile without even knowing it. So here is a very beautiful picture of one of the highway of the company that I was working with. I work for Vinci Highways, who is actually taking care of all the highways, like half of the highways in France. And so I got hired to be head of transformation and innovation. And together, for 2.5 years, I worked with the CIO in trying to understand how can we not only upgrade our technology, what are the products and the disruptive model that we can have, so we can create new services, create new, actually attract more client and actually know our client, because we had no clue who was actually running on the highway. We cannot have their name. So I worked on all those technologies, and I got to work with AI. I got to work with, smart, technology that are on ADAS, that all the cars that are automated. So yeah, and then at the same time, I had to work on how to transform ways of working and how to help the whole IT group in changing their way of working, not just for the sake of changing, but for the sake of being business-oriented, use case-oriented, not working in silos. And that is something that was completely new to me. But as a complete foreigner, as 20 years younger than everyone, as an exec, that was completely like the mistake. Like, I was completely different. I could bring with diversity. I could bring, kind of a spark on, okay, this is how it works at Intel. This is how it works somewhere else. And we eventually managed to create a plan on how can we transform little by little the company. So that's pretty much all my experience in corporate. And then I was having that purpose, need of how can I impact again? I was still like, how can I do it? And I was doing volunteering, but that's not enough. I'm just a drop. I mean, that drop can count. And I could see the gap, not just in Africa, but everywhere that fourth IR is really, really increasing the problems that we have in terms of underprivileged and privileged families. So I started being involved in learning, what are the initiatives and understanding the impact. What can we do for our kids? My son is going to be around 18 years old, in 2030. And he's going to have to develop the right skills for the future of his job. He can be an entrepreneur, he can be anything if I help him develop those skills. So I've been reading a lot of it and actually found out that the skills that I have are the one that you need. Oops, sorry. The skills that I have to what you need. So what can I do to prepare that young generation, and so that they don't need to transform? They will be always, available for change, and they will be embracing change, they will be embracing diversity. So what can I do? And so the idea was, hey, why not building programs that are based on STEM? And this is why I founded STEM Curious. And the idea is not to sell you STEM Curious, but to say, I want to work around workshop. I want to work around how can young kids can learn from 18 to 25. What are the programs that I can create to close the gap on the 18-25 so that they can inspire the younger one, they can disseminate the awareness, they can disseminate some of the skills that a 6 years old can learn through STEM, through critical thinking, through creativity. So that is why I'm here. With Dr. Jongwei, we associated ourselves to create STEM Curious in South Africa, and our goal is to develop partnership to create camps, to create workshops, to create incubators for young kids, so that hopefully in the next 10 years, we'll talk at the same table, but with different problems, thinking how can we now, leverage from all the knowledge that those kids have. So a lot of people would be like, okay, this is a business, and what are the next steps? And my next step is launching in the next few months, because I'm already working with people here that I connected to on what can we do nonprofit, because that's my target, is to actually target the underprivileged population, because it's where the gap is actually digging. So my target is actually to create 3 different workshops, one around music, one around sport, and one around design. That would be so easy to actually put in place in township or rural areas, to actually just put a foot and get a sense on what is it about creating from an idea towards a product that is through a digital tool, and how to communicate around that product. So I would be really happy to share with you, and if you want to join the initiative, then I'll be happy to connect with you. So the next step, I'm just open to any ideas. I'm embracing anything that will come to me and opportunities. So I encourage you to follow your dreams, and actually, never limit your dreams. Because I like that quote. Actually, it's a quote that I had for a long time. In Nelson Mandela is from South Africa. It always seems impossible until it's done. So it's like right now, nothing is impossible. Thank you. I will be open to question, Yolandi, if you want.
Thank you so much, Julie. You really indeed have had the most rich experiences and colorful experiences. I think even at your young age, you've lived the life of an 80-year-old, just in terms of sharing the most amazing, incredible journey that you've been on. Julie, so we do have some questions, and I see we've got some comments in the chat box as well, from people saying that, your story is very fascinating. Thank you. The one question that I do have is, well, not myself, from one of the participants, is a common thought or worry. Will AI augment most of the human tasks in IT? So will we end up replacing humans altogether? What are your thoughts on that?
So my thoughts is from experience at Vinci, which is where I touch AI professionally. My thoughts is that AI is only doing what it is told to. So it is, of course, enhancing, I would say, some of the tasks that is difficult for a human or takes more time. You know, it's more performant in some cases. So when it's built properly, then it works fine and it will help the human. So when I say when it's built properly, right, there is your answer, is that you need people to build it properly and you need people to use it properly. And that requires humans. So my thinking is that it is an enhancement. So we need people to build properly to sustain our lives. So it is a tool. It is something we need to use properly. And today we're not yet there. We're discovering the technology. We start seeing in which use case we can use it. And I think our task as human is to leverage on it and actually enhance our life with it, more than just being fearful of it. But we need to be aware that it can impact if it's not well done properly. There's so many examples of discrimination, and we blame the AI, but I think we should not blame also the human. We're just learning. But I think there's a lot of work that human can do to use it as a tool.
Absolutely. Thank you. And then we have another question for you, Julie. What would be your most important piece of advice to young women considering entering the software engineering profession?
So my advice is that I think I entered without knowing it, and I think it's good to not know. I think you should. I think my most fear is not to fear. I think the most advice I could give is that if you feel attracted to something, don't be afraid because you're one of the only one who is. And maybe if you start talking about it, you'll see that other people are interested in it. So they're going. Not as a soldier or whatever. I was not as confident as I look today, and I'm still not as confident as I want to be. But yeah, please just listen to your guts and what you like. And I think what you like and find easy is your talent. So capitalize on your talent. If designing something is too easy for you, then maybe it's something that you like, and because it's easy, then you should go and try to dig in it and you make a good job out of it. So engineering is accessible to anyone. Everybody's an engineer when we're 5 or 6. So why not at 18 years old? And why men versus women? So girls just build everything that you do on the side and go for it, and you're gonna enjoy it.
Fantastic. And I'm so glad to see we've got such an engaging audience today. Our common acquaintance has a question for you. One says, "Hi, Julie, well done. What an important initiative." And I see we've got a question here. What do you see as the problems why such initiatives might not work in South Africa? Is it the buy-in? Are people really aware of the great issues? Is there a digital divide facing us? What's your thoughts on that, Julie?
Oh, there's going to be, okay, thanks, Johan, for the question. So I think that there is a lot of barrier that people put in place. And we have to first bring awareness around what is it that we want to achieve and showcase how, I don't want to say simple, but how easy it can be if we have the right partnerships, if we have the right people around the table, if we have, and when I say right people, is people who know how to run a project, people who are convinced, people who can sell. When I say sell, is like get the buy-in from people who have means or people who have access. So I really think there's a great deal in putting around the table the right people, and I want to be that right person who can showcase and help and do things. I'm a doer, and I want to be with people who have vision, who have ideas, who can challenge me, and I want to build project to just showcase. Let's do one small thing and showcase to people, talk about it, and then we iterate on that. So yes, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of, because we don't know, and it's normal when we don't know. We're afraid. So let's bring awareness, and let's also showcase things, because talking is a good thing, but people only believe what they see, and I believe that we can show people. So I'm here. I hope the next year we can show things with little means, and hopefully that will attract the money if we need some at larger scale.
Julie, that's absolute music to my ears. You know, we always talk, but let's start doing. And for me, just the fact that you've got this nonprofit that you're getting off the ground, you know, we'll support you. We behind you 100%. And for me, you know, it's not just about always saying what we want to do, but let's do it. And, you know, we learn as we go along. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to bump our heads. But again, it's all part of the journey. Julie, I see a lot of people really are resonating with what you're saying. They've enjoyed your story. It's been extremely inspirational. And people want to connect with you. How can they connect with you? They want to get involved.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll start writing something around She's Curious, Be Curious, and He's Curious, because you know that you're involved. We're at the beginning of it. So I will share with you, Yolandi and Tony, details on this. And then if you can share it along with the replay, you can always go to STEM Curious and connect with me, or look me up on LinkedIn. So I'll give all my details, and please, do not hesitate to contact me and then engage in the discussion. I'm really here for that. And I tell you, everybody that I connect with today in South Africa is bringing so much energy to me. In like, yes, we want to help. We want to, we don't know how to help, but let's do it. So let's do it. People who wants to actually connect and have ideas, or actually previous experience, or want to be part of something with She's Curious, then please connect.
Wonderful, wonderful. Julie, I have one or two questions that I'd like to pose to you as well. I think if you had to get into a time machine today and go back, what would you tell your 16-year-old self?
I would tell her, you actually should have confidence in yourself, but it's so difficult at that time because we don't know what is confidence. I felt that I was alone, but at the same time, maybe that was confidence. I was able to continue without my friends or anybody who looked like a girl. So if I had a 16 years old, I would say, enjoy, because you can do anything. So just go for it. And if you don't like it, just change. So I think that's the best advice I would give, is like, just try it. Because when we don't try, it's like we are maybe missing an opportunity. And there's nothing bad that can happen from learning for something we don't like. I don't like beetroots. But I tried it, and eventually, that helps me, taste something different. So anyway, I don't know if it's the best example, but try it. And there's nothing. I'm not dying from beetroot, So yeah. Oh, sorry for people who like beetroot. Yeah,
that's absolutely fine. But I agree with you, and I think as women, and I suppose men have the same challenges in terms of, when you're younger, you don't have that confidence, and we hold back. And even if I look at myself, and I look at, if I had to give myself that, if I had to go back to when I was 16 years old, I pretty much would give myself that same piece of advice that you would give yourself, is, don't be scared. And I think we hold back on so many opportunities and possibilities because we were scared. And when you grow older, the confidence comes, but there were times that one may have missed out. And one final question before I let you go, Julie, because
Sure.
I know I am sensitive to our members' time and to everyone's time, but I thoroughly enjoy engaging with you. Is in terms of your wonderful journey that you've just taken us through, and walked us down memory lane. What has been some of your biggest challenges?
My biggest challenges, I think the first time is thinking that when you go to a different country, I had this idea that US is just a language. I just have to learn English, and eventually it's so different. So underestimating that cultural differences, it is good to be different. So the thing is that my biggest challenge is that I didn't expect that culture was something that I had to take in my plans. And so the biggest thing is that when you move or when you try something is always look at the culture. And when I say culture, it's not just about the country, it's about the company. Like when I moved to Vinci, I had no clue that there was a different culture. I just assumed that they were like me. We're French, we speak French, it's the same, but it was so different, so difficult. So I really think the biggest difference is thinking that because I think I am heading the right direction, that people who are not like me, the same culture, I mean, like corporate wise or like their personal culture, you cannot get that they will follow you. So you have to be very, very, very cautious about when addressing people who are not yet on board, into listening and learning their problems so that you can correlate our problems. So that's what I was saying as an intro. It's not because I'm French that I'm different and then we don't speak the same language. We have common cultural point that we can agree on, and I believe this is how we can build things together. But there are differences that if I'm not aware, then I can push you away from, following me, even if, we could benefit from working together. I don't know if I was really clear, but I think the cultural differences is something that we should not underestimate. And I think that's my next step is to really be very good at quickly get the culture. When I'm right now working with Kenyan teams, I need to understand their culture so that I can be very efficient in serving them as a consultant. So cultural differences needs to be understood, and so that we can work better.
Fantastic. Julie, once again, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I am sure that after today, you're going to receive many requests. So
I hope
for those of you that want to connect with Julie, she is on LinkedIn. Her name is Julie Regairaz, Julie. But I'm sure people will find you quite easily on LinkedIn. I see Tony has just posted on the chat a link to your LinkedIn profile. So please, those that want to get involved with Julie's initiatives and to provide any type of support. Again, I think it's wonderful what Julie's doing as far as growing IT in the rural communities, amongst young girls, young boys. And Julie, once again, thank you so much. And I'm sure we are going to, I've been keeping an eye on the chat, and everybody saying, what an inspirational story. People saying, we need to get Julie back. We want to do a follow-up session with you. So yes, your session and the presentation has been very well received. And on behalf of the Women in IT chapter for IITPSA, thank you so much. But this will not be the last time we engage with you. Thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you so much, Yolandi. It's a pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And I want to just thank you, all the participants, for joining us today. And thank you for Tony for supporting us on the logistics behind the scene. And I want to say to everybody, have a wonderful afternoon. Join us next month for our next lineup in our hashtag My Story initiative and webinar series. The dates will be communicated. So look out on our various social media platforms. So we will send out an email We will be tweeting and we will be advertising it on Facebook. And over and out for now, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.